Welcome to our leadership forum here at the John M. Huntsman School of Business. Today, on this date, marks the 2-year anniversary of the opening of Huntsman Hall. So that's pretty exciting. Today, I'm personally excited because a couple years ago, a delightful visit to the company headquarters of O.C. Tanner inspired me to study HR. Today is a special day, though, because we have not one or two, but we have 4 executives from O.C. Tanner here to speak with us. And before I introduce each of our speakers, I'd like to read the company mission statement of O.C. Tanner. If you pay attention, I think you'll notice how this mission influences each of our presenters here today. It reads, "We help companies appreciate people who do great work, because celebrating great work inspires people to invent, to create, and to discover. And when people are inspired, companies grow." Mindi Cox is the Senior Vice President of People and Great Work. She holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and an MBA from the University of Utah. She has 17 years of experience in sales, marketing, and HR, focused on practices that contribute to strengthening the workforce through culture. Her goal is to help cultivate workplace cultures where people feel connected to the greater purpose and impact of their work. David Sturt is the Executive Vice President of the O.C. Tanner Institute and Marketing. He has a bachelor's degree in HR and an MBA from BYU. In addition to over 18 years of experience at O.C. Tanner, David frequently consults with Fortune 500 leaders and speaks to audiences worldwide. He has been interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, MSNBC, Human Capital, and is a regular contributor to Forbes.com. He's also the author of the New York Times bestseller, Great Work, How to Make a Difference People Love. Gary Peterson is the Executive Vice President of Supply Chain and Production. He holds an MBA from BYU. In his role, Gary engages and empowers employees, leading the manufacturing, buying, engineering, refining, and logistics teams. His greatest joy on the job comes from interacting with and inspiring employees. Gary also serves on the executive advisory board of the Shingo Institute at the Huntsman School. Gail Bedke is Vice President of Strategic Account Management, and more importantly, an Aggie. Go Aggies. She received her bachelor's degree in journalism from Utah State University. She joined O.C. Tanner 23 years ago. Her expertise lies in analyzing and improving an organization's culture, using strategic recognition as a tool to attract, engage, and retain valuable employees. Today, Gail leads a team in assisting some of the world's largest and most successful companies to develop cultures that appreciate great work while sharing best practices to enhance employee recognition. Please join me in welcoming these honored guests. Just flip the switch right there.
I can't even see it.
It's right on top.
This isn't awkward at all to start. It's all good. Okay, we got it. Can you hear me okay? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for spending your Friday with us. I was impressed that we were going to have students just volunteer to come here and speak, because I know our story, and it's good, but like it's Friday and it's sunny and it just snowed. So it's pretty impressive that you're here. And then I'm even more impressed. I just learned from Dr. Patel that, is it Doctor? I was rounding up. We're rounding up. That you guys typically don't have business school classes on Friday. Is that right? What a progressive way to encourage you to spend that time looking toward your future. I can't even have imagined that in my own education a couple decades ago now. So what an awesome thing that you're taking advantage of that, and I'm just so impressed with it. As kicking off our group today, I just thought I would take a minute to introduce O.C. Tanner, and maybe we'll just start by you telling me what you know about O.C. Tanner. How does that sound? What do you know?
It was founded in 1927.
You have a cheat sheet right in front of you. Like, I'm expecting a little bit of ambition in the audience today. So 1927, we just celebrated our 90th anniversary last year, and our CEO likes to call us a 90-year-old startup. Because you know what, you got to be that hungry still today, and as times are changing very, very quickly. And if we were doing the same thing we did 90 years ago, it would not be happening for us. So 90 years ago, we have this awesome founder story. Do you love founder stories? I love them. Obert C. Tanner was a student at the University of Utah and had this entrepreneurial spirit about him, and so he started a chimney cleaning company. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? So he would clean the chimneys of all the big homes around the University of Utah. And he happened to clean the chimney of a local jeweler. And he thought, learn how to make jewelry or continue to clean chimneys. Maybe I will ask him if I could apprentice as a jeweler. And so he asked one of his chimney sweep clients if he could come in and learn how to create jewelry. So, of course, the customer said yes, and Obert Tanner went in and kind of learned the art of jewelry making. Well, he graduated in philosophy, which if you're graduating in philosophy, there's only so many jobs in the world, right? Not that we don't want people to study philosophy, but then you go get your business degree, and then you get to apply all that knowledge to some realm of business where you can make some money. But Obert actually went to work teaching theology at a local seminary, and he decided that his students had done so much work by the time that they got to their degree, he felt silly just handing them a piece of paper. He thought there's got to be something that we can commemorate or symbolize this achievement with. And having this background in jewelry, he started to create seminary pins that he would give his students upon graduation. And so our founding story, is that he created these pins in his mother's basement at 623 South, 1200 East in Salt Lake City, and started pounding those out, created his own dies, got the metals in there, and created these beautiful little seminary pins. We have some of the original pins on display at our home office. But then he started to think about this concept and how wonderful it would be to spread this kind of feeling of achievement and symbolism and beauty and goodness throughout the business world. And so he, along with his nephew, Norm Tanner, started to spread this idea into business and really invented the recognition industry as it exists today. So that's what 1927 is all about. Kind of cool, huh? What else? What else do you know about O.C. Tanner? Everybody thinks we all 1,600 of us work at the jewelry store downtown. It's not that big. It's a big store, but it's not that big. So because Obert was a philosopher, he did a lot of things that probably wouldn't be considered a really great business decision at the time or even today, because they were the right thing to do or they helped follow a passion of his. And one of those was beauty. And he really wanted to give beauty to the community. So you may notice a disproportionate number of fountains throughout not only Utah, but the country that bear the Tanner name. He loved water. He loved fountains. He also wanted to give Salt Lake City a beautiful jewelry store and a place where they could come buy beautiful things to gift each other and to create memorable moments in their lives. So he did. He founded O.C. Tanner Jewelry Company, and we still have a beautiful store in downtown Salt Lake today. In fact, it was voted the coolest store in America when it first opened. So if you haven't been down there, go check it out. We actually, Carolyn, who's his daughter, who's our chair of the board now, called that a gift to the city. We had taken the original Salt Lake City library and renovated it, even going as far as to find the glassmaker, a glassmaker that could replicate the type of vintage glass that they had in the original building. So very, very cool. A lot of people come in and go to the first floor. You got to go all the way to the third floor to see all of that wonderful woodwork and windows. So plan that outing if you haven't done that. So I just mentioned we have 1,600 employees. O.C. Tanner is a global company. We have major locations in Canada, in the UK. We just acquired an Australian company last year. That was really fun. That was a first for us. We have offices in Singapore and where else? What else am I missing? India. Yes, wonderful team in India that's really growing for us. We do a lot of our IT development out of India now. So it's been a change for us as an organization too over the last several years of how do we go from having all of us in one place to making sure that we're creating a great employee experience and opportunities for us as a global company. And it's been fantastic for us to figure out ways to navigate that and to also leverage strengths globally. Our main focus, our strategic focus for our business is serving multinational US-based companies. So we'll sell into a big global company, but we've always been driven to make our global footprint by where our clients need us to be. And those are the markets right now where we have the heaviest presence. What else do you know or want to know about O.C. Tanner? Yes? Exactly. So, and I don't know why I'm weeping today, other than it's fresh air, and it's just like it's getting to my eyes today. But we do, in fact, recognition and appreciation is our core business. And it's moving even more to sort of the attention on culture and how do we help organizations create great cultures and awesome employee experiences. So the awards are becoming secondary to recognizing behaviors in the workplace that move a strategic goal forward. So we create, we have a huge IT shop, almost 150 IT professionals right now that create platforms and interfaces for our clients to have an online experience with recognition. So you might submit a nomination or a peer-to-peer award. We have mobile platforms that companies use to help recognize behaviors that align with their specific strategy and goals that they set as an organization. And then as employees exhibit those behaviors, you would be empowered as an employee to say, hey, I just saw Bob do this wonderful thing. I'm going to go onto this mobile app, make a nomination for him. It's going to send him some points. And then those points go into a bank. And he can continue to accumulate those points as he receives different awards and recognitions for his work. And then they'll go onto our platform and redeem for awards. Our core business is career achievement. So recognizing length of service within organizations. And we create beautiful custom awards and trophies that will recognize that type of achievement. And it's really less, the award becomes a symbol of the experience that an employee is having at that moment. So it's what we try and teach organizations is it's less about dropping the award off on somebody's desk. That's not what we're about. We want you to gather their peers, plan to have somebody speak, tell about what 15 years at this company means. What did they do along the way? What are the achievements? How is the company different today because they decided to come to work and bring their talents and abilities to this company? And we find that that is not only a really powerful moment for the employee that's being recognized, but if we're all in attendance and we're listening to that, we're also kind of taking note and going, oh my gosh, that's what success looks like here. That's what achievement looks like here. That's what's really valued here. Did you hear the way that they talked about growth in the organization, or the way he really innovated over the course of his career? And so through those conversations and those moments, they're really teaching throughout the organization and helping to spread strategy to every employee. So those are the 8,000 clients we serve globally. That's what we're about, is creating those moments and the difference that can make in cultivating a culture of appreciation through an organization. Awesome. Any other questions about OC Tanner? We have a ton of different groups within OC Tanner. And one of the things I like most about coming to work is that as I come in the front door, I've got manufacturing cells going on, just killing lean manufacturing and doing all those wonderful things that Shingo's all about. That Gary will talk to you a little bit more about that. But then I come down the hall, I've got marketing on one side, I've got sales support. I'm walking into the people and great work team, which is really called HR in a lot of organizations that haven't quite got it yet. That we're about people, and what we really want to foster is great work. That's why we call ourselves that. What we call things matter, don't you think? It matters what we call things. It helps us focus. It helps us know what we're about. And hopefully it tells you that when you come to the OC Tanner company, you're not a human resource. You're people, and you're going to do great work while you're here. And that we're just all about supporting you through that process. I think you'll hear from all of us today the cool thing about OC Tanner. I've been at OC Tanner now 20 years. I started in our strategic sales team, doing our biggest major deals. I was a writer for that team. I came out with an undergraduate degree in journalism. And I had a choice between, I was supposed to start with KTVX as a weekend producer, or I got this job that paid twice as much as a writer that I could just go do until my husband finished school. 20 years later. That's how that looks when you make those career choices. But it ended up being the best thing I could do, because then I went in as a writer, was able to help contribute to our sales team, and then I kind of got curious about marketing. What's going on over there? And so went to work for David Sturt's team actually for 10 years, and did a lot of our client-facing communications. I did that why I pursued my MBA. The reason I even pursued an MBA is because I'm sitting in a meeting at OC Tanner around a huge mahogany-colored table, and they're talking about what difference we're going to make to our clients. What's the ROI on the program? How are we going to price this? What's the strategy going in? And I'm going, I don't know what they're talking about. As a humanities major and a writer, I had skills to kind of translate that and tell our story. But I wanted to know what are these decisions and what are the numbers that are going into these decisions. So when I applied for the MBA school at the University of Utah, I got a call from a counselor who said, that's really cute that you want to go to business school, but you'll be the only humanities major in our whole program. Are you sure that you want to do this? And I said, well, is that bad? Is that, what does that mean? They said, well, it does mean you're going to have to take statistics over the summer. I said, well, that sounds terrible, but I probably could survive that. So I took a statistics class at Salt Lake Community College over the summer, and I turned my grade back in. I said, well, can I go now? And they said, well, yeah, your GMAT's good, but really you're going to be the only humanities major in the program. And so again, I said, is that bad? Like, I can, I know how to write about things, but I just find sometimes there are very set ideas about who does what and who pursues what degree. But I ended up going to business school. I loved my master's program, learned a ton. I was able to apply it immediately on the job as I worked on these strategic deals and sales. And I graduated as valedictorian of my MBA class. So I'll just share that with you for just a minute. So don't let anybody give you that little bit of a challenge because just because you're going in with a different background doesn't mean it's not for you. If it's something that you want to pursue and you're passionate about seeing the application in your life, I think obviously, that's why we have those kind of choices. So coming in through sales, moving through marketing, because of the industry we serve, we often sell into HR groups, into people teams, who are trying to make a difference in the employee experience for their companies. So I had the opportunity to interview a lot of our clients, and I really started to get inspired by HR leaders. And I was meeting with CEOs who were telling me the difference that these HR programs and teams were making in their companies. And I was meeting these leaders, and I'm like feeling connected to them. And their purpose in life is all about people and creating these experiences at work that create better lives for these people at home. That then they've got energy and passion to contribute to communities, and they're making all these huge differences that really aligned with what I felt like was my personal purpose. So I feel like I was inspired into HR. So I was just telling Ryan over here, he says he's doing a marketing undergraduate degree, but really wants to get his graduate degree in HR. And I think marketing is an awesome place to start for a lot of different reasons. Firstly, because no matter what degree you pursue, what team you end up on, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to tell a story. You have to be able to make a business case. You have to be able to communicate an idea. And no matter where you all end up in your life and in your career, people is what your job is going to be about. The way you relate to people, the way that you communicate to people, the way that you interact and read people, the way that you know what matters to them, so that's what you choose to talk about, and you know how to make sure that they understand what it is you're asking for and why they care about it. So if you think that, no, I'm pursuing this, I'm going to be an investment banker, I'm going to be a strategist, I'm going to be I don't need to worry about the people thing, look around. This is your workforce. This is who you're going to be working with. And we all love people that understand us and have a genuine interest in who we want to be and what we want to do. So be that person. Be that person that can relate to other people, and don't neglect those skills. Would be a huge piece of advice that I would give. The other thing I would say is just that because I had no HR background, and here I'm kind of raising my hand from a sales and a marketing background to go into HR, I had to ask. I had to ask for the opportunity. Hey, is there anything I could do that might contribute to this HR team? And it happened to be at a time in the transition in our company where they really wanted somebody to lead culture. And so it was an excellent opportunity for me to step in and say, hey, I know a little bit about culture. My background is working with our clients and how they're developing their cultures. And I have a unique perspective from the business side of things that I can offer. And so I was given that opportunity. That was my foray into HR, was to be lead culture initiatives, which was kind of an inside-out position for us just because of the way that we operate in the market. I not only had to think about our own employee experience, but because we were trying to improve employee experiences with companies around the world, I got to not only develop things, but then also communicate what we were doing to our clients. So it was this kind of a really cool dual role. And then as I spent that time with the HR team, I could pursue my HR certifications. Right? We go get our HRCI and all those wonderful institutions that have so much ongoing learning. We can pursue the certifications that help us learn the inside out of technical HR. So that's really my career journey, and we talked a little bit today about what we might offer as far as just giving you a perspective on OC Tanner and then also our own careers. Probably the best thing that I could tell you is that I came out of school thinking that I was going to choose which ladder I was going to lean which building I was going to lean my ladder on, and then just start to achieve, right? We just climb that ladder. And I have found that careers are nothing like that. And as I coach people through their careers now, people get nervous. Well, I started up this ladder. I'm committed now. I'm already a manager at this level. If I get off now, I've got to start over here, and I've got to start over here. If you find out that you are not doing what moves you, you've got to move. Because there's no way that you're going to build a successful career not doing something that you love. And I know that sounds squishy and sometimes soft, but if you've learned enough to know that what you're doing every day will not ever be enough for you, or if you've learned that, what I've tried and this experience I've had really lit me up, you've got to pay attention to that stuff, because it's possible to move. It's possible to raise your hand and say, I want to look over here, I want to look over there. And I think sometimes when we get really focused on degrees, it's a great thing, but what I've found is that a degree doesn't limit you to what you'll do in your career. A degree is evidence that you have learned a way of thinking. So right now you're getting a business degree or an HR degree or a marketing degree. That's evidence of a way of thinking that you're being taught. There's a strategic way of thinking through a business problem or a business case or approaching a market or communicating something. And that, as an HR leader now who is trying to put people in the right careers that not only benefits the company but helps them feel fulfilled in their own lives, I'm trying to figure out, does your way of thinking and learning and interacting, is that going to click in this particular position? So I would just say, pay attention to the way, to a higher level of what it is you're learning. What way of thinking are you learning? And how can you apply that to different areas than just the business case you're working on or just the project that you're working on? And just believe me that your career is going to look more like a roller coaster than a ladder. And don't be afraid to take those dips and those side roads. I've exited and on-ramped and off-ramped and whatever the right terms for that are many times. And you get nervous. You think, oh my gosh, I can't go part-time. They'll never consider me for this. Or I can't leave for a season and then come back. They'll never consider me for that. And I think, fortunately for us, business climate is such that leaders today are looking to just have the right talent at the right time in the right places. And if you happen to be that talent, and stay in touch and let people know you're available, but you're also making the right choices that are right for your life, those opportunities will present themselves at the right seasons, and you will perform your best because it's your season to do so. Any questions about that? We want to invite you to just have a discussion with us today. Gary's going to come up and talk to you a lot more about the ins and outs of what our awesome manufacturing teams do and the lean journey that we're on as an organization. But we do want to make this a discussion. So please make sure all your questions get answered today. And I would just challenge you to stay curious. It is the best skill you can bring to your life. Stay curious. If something feels interesting to you, pursue that. Try and figure out why it's interesting to you. And it doesn't matter if that's just in school or if it's 10 years into your career. Keep learning, keep reading, and stay curious. Thanks.
Very good, very good. Thank you. It's nice to be with you today. Like Mindi said, I also started in the marketing department of the O.C. Tanner Company. My undergraduate degree was in statistics, so I didn't have to take the makeup class. But and I had about 4 different careers at the O.C. Tanner Company, but where I landed was in operations. I really loved the production, supply chain side of the business. We have about 450 people in direct labor at the O.C. Tanner Company who are all focused on making custom, unique awards for our clients to recognize their people with. And we also have about 70 people who are in support roles. Most of them are leaders of people. But we also have a lot of technical roles like chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, industrial engineers. We even have a PhD of physics who heads up our laser technology. And basically those support people are working to make new processes, new products. Very, very innovative company in terms of design. They actually are on a team with some of David's people. They meet twice a week to talk about new possibilities, new capabilities. So in addition to being innovative and forward-thinking, you may well know that I would hope that when Mindi said, what do you know about the O.C. Tanner Company, you would say a culture of continuous improvement. Because that is definitely what we have throughout the organization. And I'll tell you that about 20 years ago, we started using the shingle model. The shingle model comes out of the Shingle Institute, which, as mentioned before, is based here in the Huntsman School of Business. And it has served us extremely well. And I never miss the opportunity to say something about the shingle model, even if I'm talking at Utah State. This company that we just acquired in Australia, they were up a couple of months ago for a sales meeting. It was our first opportunity to meet many of them. And they had noticed between our acquisition of them and this visit that one of their largest prospects, BHP Mining down in Australia, was coming to Salt Lake City to visit our factory. And their question was, what? Why is the executive team of one of the largest companies in Australia coming to Salt Lake City to visit the O.C. Tanner Company? And do any of you know why we get besides Ken at the Shingle Institute, does anyone know why we get hundreds of business visitors every year coming to the O.C. Tanner Company? Anybody know what they're coming to see? You don't know. Yeah, oh, you know, sir.
They're coming to just see how you've applied the Shingle principles into
Yeah.
the processes and made it better.
That's right. He says they're coming to see how we've applied the shingle principles. So I will tell you that at the top of the shingle model is value. Every single person focused on value to the client. What is it the client wants? And then right beneath that is alignment. Every single person aligned to providing that value. And then the part below that is about continuous improvement. So now everybody's applying these 5 principles, driving and improving everything to drive value to the client. And companies all over the world want to apply those continuous improvement principles, but they find that they implement them and then they fall short. They stop functioning. They can't figure out why they don't work. And that's because they've forgotten the bottom of the shingle model, which is culture, a culture of continuous improvement. There's 2 principles down there. One is respect for people, and the other is lead with humility. And the whole idea is if you really want people, if you want every person to feel like they own their process and you want them engaged in driving improvements, then they have to feel that from their management. They have to feel that from their leaders. You have to feel in the whole company that every single person matters. And what every person does is a big deal. And that's why they come to see, because they understand the idea of continuous improvement, but they haven't quite figured out how to engage everybody in the process. And when you walk into the O.C. Tanner Company, it's not just manufacturing, but you walk through and what you see are happy, engaged people with big smiles on their faces who come to work charged up and ready to go because they know that they're being treated by the company as if they were an owner. That we look to them as though, hey, if you own this company, what would you do? And when you feel that way about yourself, you get excited about coming to work in the morning, right? You want to come and you want to be part of something bigger than yourself. So I will tell you that in the quarter century or so that we've been driving continuous improvement there, we've been able to change. Instead of people coming and just using their hands at work, they're now using their minds, and they're giving us their hearts every day. And our leaders have changed from being the specialist, the knowledge worker, the one who knows everything, the one who has all the answers, to becoming more of a coach and a steward, a teacher, somebody who mentors and develops people to become creative problem solvers. I want to tell you a little bit about the way we work. If you were to come and just spend a day at O.C. Tanner, one of the first things you would see is a huddle of people. First thing they do, people come to work, they huddle up, and what are they talking about? They're talking about yesterday. What happened? What did we learn? What are we going to take from that? How are we going to make the business better today off of what happened yesterday? They're looking at the schedule for today because unlike a lot of manufacturing companies, everything we make is custom. It's made to order. So we have no idea what we're going to be dealt with today until we look at our planners in the morning and see what's in front of us. So the team's got to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to make that go. They're problem solving, they're coming up with ideas, they're basically driving the business. I'll tell you that huddle discussion is based around this idea of producing an entire product. So we operate in mini factories, which is it's a factory that is a small factory that basically would sit in about a fourth of this room, and basically everything you need to fulfill that product resides within that cell. There's nothing outside of the cell on which you're dependent. The buyers are in that cell, the tool makers are in the cell, the engineers, the maintenance people, the systems people, everybody's there. So from the moment you launch an order until you fulfill an order, nothing ever has to leave. You never have to go get any help. Everybody is right there. The net effect of doing that is we've been able to quadruple our efficiency just by bringing people closer together. The quality is Six Sigma quality because you're working right next to the people who you're handing product to. Your internal customers right here. So I've got to produce it right or else you're going to hand it back to me, right? You're going to have a problem with it. And we've also been able to take our time it takes to manufacture a product and significantly shrink it. 30 years ago, it took us 26 days to manufacture a product from the time you issued materials until we shipped it. 26 days. And now it takes us 20 minutes. So usually there's gasps when I say that. Oh, okay, or something like that. So there was a gasp back there. Very good. So 26 days down to 20 minutes. And that speed has brought us all sorts of gains and improvements in how we provide value to the client. So I'll also tell you that respect for people and humble leadership is not just about the way that leaders treat their people, it's also about the way that everyone looks at each other. You know, if I come to work every day and I think of you respectfully and I think of you as a person and I approach all of your ideas in a humble manner, that definitely improves the way that all of our people work together. And so we're very careful about who we let in the door. Very careful about who comes to work at the O.C. Tanner Company. I want to tell you about the way that we hire in the supply chain and manufacturing. If we have, let's say if we have 2 jobs that are available, it might be on any one of our 3 shifts, and we hire through a temporary agency. So we have a couple of temp agencies who are vying for our business, and they're sending us people who they think are cultural fits. They're doing a pre-screen for us, and actually about half of those people who come in, more than half of those people who they send to us, already have a connection to the company. They've got an aunt who works there, or a best friend, or a cousin, or something like that. It's a very close-knit company that way. But they'll send us about a dozen people. We'll come in, we'll take them on a tour of the facility, which is purposely too long, and we're watching them on this tour to see how engaged they are. Or do they start to get bored after a while? Does the phone come out? You know, that's what we're looking for. And after the tour, we take them into a conference room and we play a little game. It's about an hour-long game. It sounds like the type of interview you've had a lot of, I'm sure. It's a conference room with tables kind of haphazardly spread around, and on the table are stickle bricks, a little child's toy with the different color oblong shapes, and the pieces don't quite fit together. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but they're supposed to make a finished product that the customer wants, and the customer's in the room. The customer's very demanding. They volunteer for jobs. We set them going. They work for 7 minutes, and they fail miserably because it's an awful process. And the customer's not very happy with them. We give them a couple of minutes to think about maybe how they can improve it, but not enough time to actually improve anything. And then we set them off again. They produce for another 7 minutes. They fail again. The customer's irritability factor is going up. They spend a couple more minutes talking about improvements. They start again, another 7 minutes. They fail again. The customer's now becoming rather angry and irate with them. And we go for an hour. It sounds kind of hellish, right? And the reality is that there are people, no matter how much they've been prompted by others in terms of how they need to act in this situation, there are people who forget, and they forget they're in an interview, and they start to become angry and frustrated. They start to blame and accuse other people. And we've got the teams that are hiring are right there watching this whole thing, and they're saying, okay, we're not going to hire that woman, we're not going to hire that guy. And there's also a few people who become overwhelmed. Right? They curl up in a little ball, hide under a table. They just want the whole thing to end. Make this go away. We're not going to hire them either, by the way. But there are some people whose eyes light up, who get excited and are energized by the whole idea. They're thinking creatively. And it's interesting to watch how people kind of move towards them and start to look to them for guidance and direction. There's usually 2 or 3 of them in the room, and those are the ones we hire. At the end of the simulation, everybody who's watching is agreed. You know, it's those 3 people that we want. And sometimes I'll walk past after the end of one of these, and I'll say, well, what'd you find out today? And they'll say, well, and they only had 2 jobs, but they'll say, we're going to hire 3. We found 3. We're not going to let this other one get away. I'll say, what are you going to do with the third one? I don't know. We'll find something. Or sometimes they'll leave and say, we didn't find any. None of them worked out. We're not going to take anybody. And that's also a very good answer. But then when we hire them, they're still temporary employees for 3 months. So during that 3 months, we're teaching them job skills. We put them on a team, but we're waiting during that 3 months for that team to just embrace them, for that team to say, this person is ours. And the best example I can give you is that one day I was down in one of our basement operations, and we were doing a service award for one of our team leaders. And somebody said, well, does anybody else want to say something? And this big Samoan guy, most of them in the room were these ladies, this big Samoan guy says, well, I'd like to say something. He kind of stepped forward, and all the ladies broke into applause, thunderous applause. He was a temporary employee that morning. That afternoon, he was hired, right? This is the kind of guy that we want, somebody who everybody loves and appreciates. I'll also tell you that we do the same thing for our salaried people. So if you want to come in as a buyer or you want to come in as a manufacturing manager, you go through that same simulation. You go through that same game with the people who are applying for hourly jobs. And man, you learn a lot from that. We were hiring for a group leader, a manager level on our second shift, and I'd interviewed this European gal who I thought was awesome. I mean, I was really high on her until we saw her in the simulation. She was freaking scary. She was awful, and we were just horrified. It's like, oh my gosh, what if we had hired her? This would have been awful. I think it's really important that a company bring in people who match, people who fit the culture, because the message you give to the people who are working there as you bring new people in is that this is kind of who we think you are. This is how you fit. So the higher quality people you hire, the more the people already there are reinforced in terms of how you respect them and how you value them. When you come into our factory, I already mentioned that you'll see happy, smiling, engaged people. Now, I don't know if you know, Salt Lake City is an international Red Cross destination. So immigrants from all over the world come to Salt Lake, and some incredibly good people end up living in Salt Lake. And the very best of them come work at O.C. Tanner, as you would expect. And so when you walk into a team, it looks like a mini United Nations, basically, a history of war across the world in each of these mini factories. And so they all, physically on the outside, they all look different. And yet when you stop and pause and look around the cell, you realize they really all look the same. They all got big smiles. They've all got these bright eyes. They're all energized. They're all excited to be there. And we do all we can to help them feel respected. The carpet is the factory floor is carpeted. There's drop ceilings. It's well lit. It's clean. It's very clean. All of the factory is on the outside of the building, so they all have the beautiful glass to look out on the gardens and the fountains and so forth. And we want them to feel like their efforts really matter and that they are the ones who are doing something big with the company. Let's see, what else could I tell you about in the 4 minutes I have left? I'll tell you that, so when this team comes and huddles in the morning, and they're talking about what are we going to get done today. I mentioned that everything is made to order. So they might look at their planner today and realize we got the wrong skills for the work that we have today. And we need to move 2 of our people somewhere, or we need to get a person or 3 from somebody else. So there's a series of cascading huddles. The team leader from each of these teams, then after the team meeting, they go to another huddle with all the other team leaders. And it happens about 6:45 in the morning. And it's a fun meeting to see because there's about 40 people from all across the enterprise who are basically talking about what they're doing to meet the demands for the day. And they're moving people around from team to team. And I would say that at least half of our people know all of the jobs in their value stream. And about 20% of them also have skills in all of the other value streams. So any day when I come walking into the factory a couple hours later, I walk past some of our teams and I'm delighted to see people in here from all the different value streams. They're all coming in to flex and to work. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was hosting some CEOs of some machine shops from around the country, and we were standing in our training area, and we were talking about the way that people flex in and out. And while we were there, the first shift was ending, and a few of the ladies who work right here were coming back from having worked in a different value stream all day. They're in the emblem value stream, and they were working in the milled products. And they came in, they were giggling, they were laughing, and I shouted out to them, "Hey, where you guys been today?" They go, "Oh, we were over, they talked about, what did you do?" Whatever they asked us to do, and what are your skills? They talked about that, and they were heading home, and it made me happy just talking to them. And as I walked away, these other CEOs were like, "What was that?" And I go, "Yeah, that's a day in the life at the O.C. Tanner Company." And they were mesmerized by this notion of people so happily leaving their work area to go help somewhere else where they're needed. I will also tell you that we do a lot of reading. I think 30 years ago, the idea of an hourly direct labor worker picking up a workbook and taking it home and reading from it might have seemed bizarre. But we keep a library of books, and they're always coming through and picking out the next book that they want to read. And teams spend time together reading books and talking about books, because it's interesting, as they're solving problems together, when you read a book together, it gives you a common methodology, a common language as you talk about solving problems. It elevates the whole team and takes you to a better place. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that you knew how much the shingle model has meant to the O.C. Tanner Company. I wanted to make sure that you understood that it's an enterprise focused on continuous improvement. Every single member of the executive team is working on driving their area towards a culture of continuous improvement. And we're at different levels along there, but we're doing extremely well at that across the enterprise. And then the last thing I wanted to say, just before I sat down, is I have 6 children, 5 boys, and then our youngest is our daughter. She graduates in a couple of months. She was accepted into every major university in Utah, and she has decided she wants to come to Utah State University. She wants to be an Aggie. So she was very happy I was coming up today. She said, "Can I come with you?" I said, "Well, yeah. Do you have school tomorrow?" "Well, yeah, I have school." But she's very proud to be able to come and appear to Utah State. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Gary. Following Gary is something I've done in my career. When I joined the company, I came out of business school and had studied a lot of the same courses that you guys are studying right now. And Gary was the manager of market research at O.C. Tanner, where we did a lot of research around customers and patterns and ordering and where the market was going and competitive data. And Gary was about to be promoted, and so he was promoted to be a director in our manufacturing team, and that opened up a slot for me to be able to come into the company. And so I joined the company in market research. And I thought I would just share a little bit of my journey through that, and then also kind of what we do and the kinds of responsibilities that I have and that our teams are responsible for. And that might just give you a sense of a path, a career path. And just as Mindi said, so often our career paths, I also had the same perspective as Mindi did, which is, okay, I got to get into a company and then sort of work up along a particular track. And my experience, much like Mindi's, has been a lot more weaving through the organization and picking up different skills along the way rather than a really clear planned direction. And I think you'll find that's common in your own career. And I would just encourage you to kind of go into your career with a lot more flexibility in mind, that things may shift and opportunities may emerge in places that you maybe don't think about right now. And so even if you're sitting in your in a class where you're thinking, I want to be in marketing and I don't know that I'm going to use the statistics much, don't be surprised if all of a sudden that is a key part of what you needed to know after you get a few years in. You're going to leverage a lot of what you learned across a real breadth of understanding. So I joined the company in market research. And in market research, like I mentioned, we did a lot of analysis. We did special studies for the CEO who said, hey, I want to see what's going on with this pattern of ordering in our organization. We also track competitors, which is an important thing to do, understand where they're going and what influence they're having on the industry. And then over time, as I got a chance to be part of market research for a while and in the broader marketing team, I started having a real interest in some of the product development side of the company. So as we learned a lot of things from the research, and part of what I love about research is it helps explain things. You begin to see patterns of things. You begin to understand things better. What moves what? Why is this actually happening? And I found that fascinating. But over time, I started to become interested. I noticed some of my colleagues working on new product ideas. And I thought, that sounds really interesting and cool. And I happen to have a real passion for technology. And I had always kind of a gadget guy and always liked to work with technology. And so that started an interest in some of the technology opportunities with the company and creating new products. And so I had an interesting opportunity come to me with the emergence of the internet. And some of you may just go, are you kidding me? This guy was like around before the internet? How old is this guy up on the stage here? But this was right as the internet was just starting to emerge in 1995 and 96. Our CEO started to look at our business and said, we're going to be influenced by the internet. The internet's a real opportunity for us to create some change and some competitive advantage in our business. And so I had an opportunity where the executive team at the time said, hey, run this project and go figure out what the internet means to our business. And so I had a chance to work with some consultants at the time and start to lay out, well, what if we did this? And then we could do this online, and people could order their awards online. And so worked with our IT teams to help shape and create that. And that's where I discovered I had a real passion for creating things and to being part of product development. And so I moved out of research into more of a product development role. And product development was still a fairly young and developing discipline. And so I try to read everything I could get my hands on. We go to some seminars and conferences more about how to do good product development work. And we arranged a team, and pretty soon we were developing some of the industry's first web-based solutions. And because our CEO had the vision to commit to that and actually resource that, we were the first in our industry to web enable all of our products and services. And that gave us a huge advantage. We won companies like Dell and Microsoft and Silicon Graphics, and you just go through the wave of whoever was the who's who in tech at the time. The O.C. Tanner company was able to win those accounts because we had some real advantage. And so that's part of the benefit. You hear a lot about strategy and business strategy. That's the benefit. If you can spot opportunities and then resource them appropriately, it gives you some competitive advantage. And we had about 2 years before any competitors caught up to that capability. And that's a huge part of the role of strategy. So I learned for myself, having come in through having an MBA with a focus on strategy and marketing, thinking, okay, I'm going to be a marketing guy for my whole career. I discovered product development was really fun, and it's connected to marketing, but it's not the same thing. It relies on a lot of the research and a lot of the insights that marketing picks up, and yet you get to be creative and actually create products that customers will love and appreciate. And so I did that for a number of years, and then as the internet started to just really explode, and internet companies were like Amazon and others were starting to pop up, I thought, man, I got the startup in me. I got to go do a startup. And if I don't do it now while my kids are really young, maybe I won't later on in life. So I got to just go do the startup thing. And a buddy of mine called me, a former schoolmate. And he said, hey, we're starting this little company called Learning.com. And will you come over and head up product development? We're going to try to figure out some education play in the education space and come leave O.C. Tanner and move up to Portland and come chase this internet company. And so I remember talking to my boss at the time going, I really don't want to leave O.C. Tanner, but I got to go do the startup. I just got to go get this experience. And I thought they'd say, oh, don't let the door hit you on the way out. We've just invested all of this money and expertise in learning this internet technology and product development, and now you're just going to leave? Really? And our CEO was just a real gentleman. And he came right as I was leaving the company. He came to a little going away lunch that some of my colleagues and friends kind of had put together. And he came, and I thought, oh man, he's going to read me the riot act. He's going to be going, I don't want to ever see your face again. And he did something that really affected me in a very, very powerful way. And Gary's talked a lot about culture. And I feel very lucky to work for a company where culture is really important. That we feel like how we treat each other really matters. And Kent came up to me, the CEO, and he said, hey, I just wanted to come and add a couple of things. And he just said, I just wanted to come and say thank you for what you've done at the O.C. Tanner Company. He didn't say, don't let the door hit you on the way out, you scum, why are you leaving? He said, I really appreciate what you did. Thank you. And he said, if the internet bubble bursts, which later it certainly did, we'd love to have you come back. And he actually gave me a one-way ticket, Delta ticket, back from Portland to Salt Lake. And he said, I mean it. And that really touched me. I thought, wow. And so I went and did an internet startup for a while, and that was hard and crazy, and we had no resources, and the whole .com thing collapsed, and we ran out of money, and all of our investors said, sink or swim, we can't give you another dime, we had to let go half the company. And so I started to learn all these other things along my little career path here. This wasn't exactly how I thought it would turn out. Oh, go join a startup, make $1 bajillion in stock options, and live happily ever after on a beach somewhere. So not how that thing started to play out, right? We nearly lost the company. We had no money. We had to come up with a new business plan on the fly and see if we could get that self-funded and bring a product to market. And we did. We did. We brought a product to market. It ended up doing very well, and that company grew. And then I got a call after about 2.5 years back from my former CEO at O.C. Tanner, and he said, hey, your leader just left. Would you consider coming back to O.C. Tanner as the head of marketing? And at the time I was like, whoa, this is kind of coming out of nowhere. I think I'm doing the startup track, and the startup track was finally starting to work. We had gone through the pain. We had our incomes cut 40%. We were just barely making it. It was just crazy, working until 2 in the mornings. It was crazy time. And when Kent called me, the reason I took him really seriously was this was the guy who said, hey, we'd like to have you back at some point. Just how he treated me just made a huge impression on me. And I thought about it for a few weeks and talked it over with my wife, and we decided we're coming back to O.C. Tanner. And fortunately, things went well at learning.com. Not well enough that I'm on a beach somewhere. So I got some options out of it, but not enough to stop working. But I've enjoyed being back at O.C. Tanner. So I share that path. And then I was invited to lead our marketing team. And O.C. Tanner has a great marketing team. We're the leader in our industry, and yet there are some competitors that are very aggressive. And so we've had to completely remake and reorganize our whole marketing team. As you know, now the majority of people's decisions to even consider a company to buy their solution in the business-to-business, in the B2B space, about 70% of the work they will do to decide whether or not you're even on the list is online. Before you even get a chance to talk to a sales rep who's very persuasive. You're gonna hear in a few minutes from a very, very successful salesperson. She can probably sell any of you anything because she sells all of our biggest clients. But even before a sales opportunity happens, people are doing their work online. They're looking at their website, they're looking at reviews, they're listening to what analysts are saying about your company. And so over time, we've built, we have an analyst relations person whose job it is to work with analysts to influence and help them understand the market and what we're doing to lead that market. Obviously, all of our PR activity, which has gone up a ton in the last several years. Why? Because people, before they even go to your website, they're going to read what everybody else is saying about you, right? It's the same way we all search and buy stuff online. That's become a really big deal. We also have a creative team on our marketing team, and they're tasked with figuring out how to really make what we're doing clear and compelling and an obvious selection against all of our competitors who are always copying what we're doing. And so that becomes a really challenging ongoing effort to stay in front of that. One of the other key things that marketing needs is really good content. If you want people to come and read your perspective and your point of view, you better have some really good ideas, and you better bring some really good expertise and really good insights to the market. And you ought to influence where the whole market is going. And that's hard to do. And so we created the O.C. Tanner Institute, where we do an awful lot of research. So we go in and actually analyze in organizations, what are they doing? What's working, what's not? We survey people all over the world, understanding what's working and what's not in cultures. That gives us the ability to take that research and then share insights and become part of the content engine of being able to share those insights out all around the world. And as part of that, we do a lot of webinars. We speak at a lot of conferences. In fact, everybody here speaks. I know Mindi speaks at a ton of HR conferences. Gary, who he didn't mention, and I don't know that it was in his thing, is a Hall of Famer for the Manufacturing Association for Manufacturing Excellence, AME. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, we are lucky to have this guy. No big deal that people from all around the world are coming to tour our facilities, largely because of Gary's vision and how he's leading. Well, what influence do you think that has on the rest of O.C. Tanner's reputation? People are hearing about us from multiple angles. That's part of our PR strategy. That's part of just having amazing people that we work with that get a chance to go out and share what O.C. Tanner's doing, that then draws attention to what we're doing and then draws people in and that become leads. And obviously that's a huge role that we have in marketing, is to increase leads, to provide leads to the sales team so that they can go and sell those people. And that's a huge part of what we're doing and how we go about doing that. And so it's very interesting how we chart a course. So I get involved a lot on the O.C. Tanner Institute. So I have a responsibility for heading the marketing team, the Institute, and then our award design team. And in the Institute, we spend a lot of time, like I said, studying, researching, and then sharing those insights out through channels like Forbes, Harvard Business Review. We try to get the word out and share some of the research that we've been doing. We just found that's a very effective way to share that information because it's trusted information. As Mindi mentioned, we sell to some of the world's largest organizations. They're very sophisticated. And just coming in, having opinions is just not doesn't cut it. They want to know, what's the research behind that? When Gail is sharing a best practice, they want to know, well, what's that based on? Well, we got thousands of customers. Here's the research. So having an institute that's got researchers and people that are deep into that. We now have an anthropologist on our research team. We have somebody who's completing his PhD. So we got some really interesting skill sets that are way better than when Gary and I were in the market research team. It's like upgraded like 3 times since we were in there. But it's just interesting. And then that led us in the Institute to look at a whole bunch of the data and say, this is really fascinating stuff. And I remember walking into our CEO one day saying, hey, we got some really interesting data about how people actually make a difference and how they end up doing things that they get awarded for. Because we've got thousands of the customers, right? And people are going in, as Mindi mentioned, nominating somebody for having done some great work in the organization. And we thought to ourselves, wow, we can learn from what they actually did. What if we draw out of that, kind of like a big data project, to learn some of the research that's in there? We could actually publish some of that. And that led us to publishing a book called Great Work, which was right out of the research in the Institute. And so if you would have asked me, even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, hey, someday you're going to be working on a book that then you're going to be speaking about it all over the world, I would have said, no way, man, I kind of like research. I kind of like product development. Our paths sort of shift and opportunities emerge in front of us, and you just take those opportunities and run with them. And so now, earlier this year, I was in India for 2 weeks. As Mindi mentioned, we have a great presence in India, speaking at, I think, 16 different conferences and meetings with customers and prospects. Again, why do they care to listen to O.C. Tanner? Because we got some great research and great insights that can help them build awesome cultures. And that's what people are trying to do in India. And guess what? That's what they're trying to do in Australia. And that's what they're doing all over Europe. And so we're trying to stay in front of some of those latest trends so that we can bring insights and then products and services that help them get where they want to get. And so that's a little bit of a trajectory through my career. that has been kind of surprised me. The third group that I have a great chance to work with, they interface directly with Gary's team a ton, which is trying to invent and come up with new award concepts. Awards have been given out now for years and years, and so often they're kind of lame. You know, a lot of people get just the same old mahogany plaque that was probably invented in 1941, and so the team, the creative team that's in the design group are trying to come up with new ideas for new awards. And we've had some of the best companies in the world come to us to say, we want you guys to build some really cool custom awards that are unique for us. And we'd show you all kinds of really cool pictures. And then that team works with Gary's team, says, hey, we got this killer idea. Can you make it? And because these guys have such an amazing attitude toward their work, they're like, wow, we don't have any way to make that now, but let's figure out a way. And so then they create all kinds of new tooling, new capabilities, new functions to be able to then take that innovative idea and bring it to life. And then not just bring it to life, but bring it to life at a cost point that can actually be profitable. And that's a very hard business to do, to keep coming up with new ideas and then figure out how to produce those on the fly in order quantities of one at a time. And again, it's just a remarkable thing if you've ever toured the facility to see how that all comes together. So I'm a very lucky guy. I get to work at an awesome company with amazing people, and that's been my career path. But if you would have asked me when I was sitting in your guys' seat, you know, what are you going to be doing in like 30 years from now? I would never have been able to answer that. I would never have been able to guess. And so the advice I think I would just give to you is look to make a difference. A lot of what you're doing in class right now is learning to understand the principles of your particular discipline. So if you're going into PR, what are the specific building blocks that makes a great PR? You got to learn those things. Those are the skills, those are the abilities, the perspectives that you need to gain. This is a great time to get that. You've got good professors, you've got good case studies, you've got internship opportunities to really deepen that skill. But keep in mind, that skill is just a starting point. Just because you have that skill doesn't mean, oh, great, now I'm going to be great at my job. I would encourage you, think about the difference that you can make. Each of you have a unique background, unique skill set, in addition to what you're learning in school. And I just invite you, always be that person that arrives. Every single person sitting here has made a significant difference to the company. Significant difference to the company. They're not awesome because they're just good at what they do. They find ways to make differences. And that's the story of success at O.C. Tanner. That's the story of success in every organization. We've had an opportunity to study an awful lot of people and an awful lot of examples. Those people who are making a difference are the ones that have the next opportunity in front of them. And the next opportunity. They're also the ones who have the most fun at work. Could you tell how much these guys love what they do? It just kind of spills out, right? And when you're making a difference, you love what you do. And that creates the next opportunity if you make a difference. And I think that's the thread that I would draw across the opportunities I've had in my career. Those times when you get to make a difference, those are the great times. And you guys will each have an opportunity to make some really powerful differences you can't even see yet. And I'm excited for you to have those opportunities. So with that, we're going to turn over some time to the one and only Gail. Give it up for Gail.
Thank you. How are you? It's fantastic to be here, and I want to thank my colleagues who are also my family. We've been talking about this for a while and wanting to have an O.C. Tanner Day here, so I'm thrilled to have it come to fruition. Similar to David, I'm going to talk a little bit about my career path in the hope that you'll be able to grasp a few nuggets that might help you as you look to the future of your careers and what you're embarking upon when you graduate. First, as it was said, I am an Aggie, very proud. I came to Utah State from the Northwest and graduated in 1995. And while I was here, I had the time of my life, made some lifelong friendships, and went to school with Matt Wells, went out on a few dates with him. So if you see Matt, tell him hello from Gail. I haven't seen him for a while. But just really, really enjoyed my time here. And when I graduated, not being from the state of Utah, I was talking with my friends and finding out what they were up to. And they were all moving to the big city. Salt Lake City. And so I followed. And I had one thing on my mind. I needed to get a job. And so, as David was saying, the internet was not rampant back then, and there were no cell phones. And so I was filling out applications, and I was mailing my resume. And I remember talking to a girlfriend of mine who had just graduated from ASU, and she was working in market research for David. So kind of a funny coincidence. And she said, I think that our customer service department is hiring. And as Mindi said, at that time, what I knew is that we had a big fancy jewelry store. I didn't know much more about O.C. Tanner, but again, I knew I needed the job. And so I applied. And I got a job in customer service. And we have, again, these field offices all over the world. I was working for a field office that was based in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so my first piece of advice for you is one of the best ways to learn about an organization you're working for is to work in customer service, because you are on the front line. You are taking phone calls from the clients. You are helping the salespeople. You learn pretty quickly what your company that you're working for does well, and you learn pretty quickly where there are opportunities to improve. And so it was a true education for me. And so I worked up through the ranks of customer service. 5 years, ended up managing our Northeast client relations team when I had a personal life change. And so my family and I decided we were going to move to Southern California to be close to family. And so I was just so enjoyed my time working for O.C. Tanner. And I did something that Mindi mentioned. And it's so funny the connections we're making, because we didn't really know what we were going to be talking about when we were up here. But I asked for an opportunity. I went into our head of sales and I said, hey, I'm moving to Southern California, and I know I don't have any sales experience, but I'm so passionate about what we do in our company. Is there an opportunity for me to possibly sell for O.C. Tanner? And he took a chance on me. And so I had an opportunity to sell the communication and recognition and leadership packages that we talked about up here, and for almost 4 years. And it was an incredible, invaluable experience. Mindi said, find out what lights you up. I found out sales lights me up, and it was amazing. And what I also loved about sales is I loved that, I don't know why my legs are like shaking up here, because I'm excited to speak to the Aggies. As I found that it was very empowering to have the opportunity to have so much control over my income. My compensation. I mean, there are very few roles out there in the world where you can actually have that control. It was empowering. It was also frightening. And so carrying a quota, the responsibility of having to meet a number was exciting, scary, and I loved it. And so when I was thinking about sales, I know when we were in school here, there wasn't a major for sales. So I went in on the Huntsman Business School website this week, and I noticed that there's 7 graduate degrees that you can obtain and 15 undergraduate. Again, nothing in sales. The closest one I think was in real estate. And so sales is not a degree necessarily that any of you will be having, but there's quite a few, I bet, in this room who will end up in some way being in sales. And so it's fun for me to be standing up here and representing that line of work. And so going back to my career path, so I was in California working and doing sales and enjoying it so much, but also getting burnout on Southern California. I don't know if any of you have spent any time living there, but it's a great place to visit, hard place to live, in my opinion. I also really strongly miss the state of Utah. And so I did, again, what I did before to get that opportunity. I called that time our head of HR, and I said, is there an opportunity for me to come back? And again, I asked. And she said yes. And so moved back to Utah, and it was just at the time that we were creating a new team called Strategic Solutions. And it was kind of the second phase of the team that Mindi started with, the major deal team. And it was an opportunity to work on a team that worked on our largest opportunities within the organization and partnering with our sales force to just make sure that we were going to close the deal and win the business. And again, it just allowed me to keep in that sales role that I'm so passionate about. And so I had an opportunity to work and then eventually lead that team. You're seeing the pattern within O.C. Tanner and being able to try a lot of different things and have a lot of opportunities. I then led our sales team in the southern part of the United States and then the southeast part of the United States. And now I am into a role, again, you see my title, Vice President of Strategic Account Management, but I'm into the role that I now believe, and it took me about a year to feel comfortable to say this, but that I believe I was made for. And so about a year ago, there have been a lot of talk about these, what we call major deal sales, and going after the whales, the giants, the GMs, the GEs, the Marriotts, the Delta Airlines, the Accentures, you know these organizations. That is not a typical sale. When you want to try to win those organizations' business, you better be at the top of your game. You better be thinking about things differently. You better be coming at it from a lot of different angles. And through some good experiences in trying to close that business and some candidly bad experiences, we realized we needed to step our game up a bit. And so having the wonderful leadership of our executive team and our incredible leader, CEO, Dave Peterson, we created a role just a little over a year ago that I'm in today. And it's basically overseeing what we call our giant strategy. So we have earmarked 12 giant prospective clients. And the logos are everywhere. Everyone in the company knows who they are. And one by one, we're going to pick them off. And we are going to win the business of each of those. And every time we move a logo from prospect to client, we're going to add another one. And it has been just a fantastic experience. And it has been wonderful because it is not sales closing these deals. It's sales partnering with people in great work and with marketing and with supply chain and production. Everybody plays a role. I mean, I am riding on Gary's coattails because he's getting these companies to come in and tour our facility, and he's letting me come and talk to them for 15 minutes about what we do at OC Tanner in terms of the services that we provide. I mean, it is a team effort to a degree that we've never experienced before, and it's fantastic. And so I just stand up here saying that while you'll be walking away with a marketing degree or a degree in HR or a degree in business administration, don't forget about sales. Because as we say oftentimes in our company, nothing happens at OC Tanner until a sale is made. And it is a great way to have an incredible career, find great satisfaction. It's challenging. And so I'll leave you with just a few nuggets, things that I've learned, both related to sales and not. And it's a little repetitive to what you've already heard. But when you go out and you get your first job or your second job, don't look at the title, look at the company. Because if you can get in with the right company, the world truly could be your oyster. Look for mentors. Inside, outside your circle. I have one of my lifelong mentors sitting right here, Patty Halafia. Mentors can mean the world, and there are people that want to and are willing to mentor. And they will have your backs, they will give you advice, they will steer you the right way. So make sure that you surround yourself with a great, strong circle of mentors. Look for opportunities that are outside of your direct roles and responsibilities. Volunteer for things that may not directly relate to your position. It will give you exposure that you wouldn't have otherwise, and it'll allow you to have a broader circle within the organization that you're looking for. If you have any opportunity ever to get management experience, take it. Even if it just means that one person perhaps is reporting up to you. Management experience is invaluable, and once you have it, you'll never have that taken away from you. And it can definitely pay off in other roles down the road. When you are in sales, determining that some of you might go in there, try really hard not to take it personally. It's very personal when you become very passionate about the deals you're trying to close, but that's something that is kind of an art in trying to learn, and I still struggle with it some days, but you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, and when you lose them, try not to take it personally because it can be a little heartbreaking. And then lastly, there are a lot of sales fields that are very what is the word I'm thinking of? Specialized. And so, for instance, if you're thinking of pharmaceuticals, get the pharmaceutical experience as soon as possible, because if you want to sell in pharmaceuticals, they want to hire someone who has the experience. The best experience now that you can gain is get experience selling SaaS, because if you have SaaS selling experience, you can go anywhere in the world and find a job. So that is the hottest market to move in for sales. Anything you can do to get that experience, get it on your resume, internship, summer job, I would encourage you to do so. So, thank you.
now like to invite our 4 guests up to the stage. We're going to have a short Q&A session. So just a reminder for all of our students, when you ask a question, please stand. I'll bring the mic over to you, state your name and what you're studying, and then ask your question. I'm sure we'll get experience here. So.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Okay, not all at once here. You're overwhelming us with questions. Yeah.
So again, name and major. Kellen, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kellen Law, doing finance and economics. My question is, how do you divide your passions to what you can do in order to help you make money? Because I have a passion to help out youth, and I know I can maybe get another job and do that job and make money and help youth on the side, so I could better provide for my family. But I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Gail's handing me the microphone. I do think you have to be practical about your passions. So one thing I would say is pick an organization to work for that cares about what you care about. Philanthropy is a huge deal in recruiting and culture building within organizations, and it's a totally valid question during an interview. Tell me about what you do in the community. Tell me about what you care about. We offer every employee 8 hours of volunteer time. So in an annual cycle, we want our employees volunteering in the community, want them bringing causes to us that matter to them. You can find organizations that care the way that you care, and that will allow you to spend your time to do those things. And continue to volunteer in your communities too, and find a job that doesn't suck all the life out of you, so that you've got a little bit of time left over and energy left over to do that. But I definitely think that you can find a way to marry those passions with some practicality as well.
I just had one thought too about that. I used to be a windsurfing instructor when I was in high school. I thought, it doesn't get better than this. This is my favorite job ever. I don't want to go get a regular sort of corporate job ever. But I've discovered, looking back across my life, that even though I had a real passion for windsurfing, I found a similar level of passion for other types of things I did. Once I got into spreadsheets and on the analytics side, there was a real buzz I got out of that. And then later in product development, I got a real buzz out of that. So you may just discover that there's a lot of your passion that's not only tied to helping kids. There may be some deeper thing that's going on in you. It's just coming out there, that as you get into your finance degree, there may be certain things you find just the exact same level of passion. And so I'm not one of those who believes there's only one thing you can ever do and love doing, because I've done a lot of different things and I've loved each one of them. So I'd just say stay open to that. You may discover those passions that are available to be pointed in other areas than just those.
That's great advice.
I'm just going to add one more thing to piggyback off of what Mindi said. One of the things that's important for us when we are working with the organizations we work with, our clients, is to understand what drives the employee mindset, so we can align our recognition strategies to helping them attract and retain, the best people they can. And something through the research of the O.C. Tanner Institute, we're doing a lot of work around what we've identified to be our talent magnets, and things that drive great work within organizations. And one of the talent magnets is purpose. So to build off what Mindi's saying, more so than ever before in the history of my career, we're hearing from companies who are making sure that they are really talking about what is their purpose, because especially with the new generations coming in, that's something that's very important as all of you decide where you want to work. What is the company's purpose, and how do I align to that?
My name's Andrew Kenny. I'm studying accounting. And first, I'd just like to say thank you for coming today, taking time out of your guys' crazy lives to be here. And my question is for Gary. You mentioned that you have a library for some of your employees. What kind of books do you have in there? I imagine some are lean related since it's manufacturing, but I was just curious what kind of books you have.
Yeah, we have lots of different titles. Many of them are lean related. But I would say that probably the two that I most strongly recommend One is called 2-Second Lean. These guys all have a copy. I buy them by the box load. I hand them out. The other one is Leadership and Self-Deception. And it's the Arbinger Institute has done several books like that. The other one is The Outward Mindset. And the focus there is on the way we think of other people. And if I have a problem with somebody, it's natural to assume that if they could only fix their problem, I'd be okay with them. But that book teaches more of a personal accountability for, I can do something about it. I have a stake in this. I can make things better on my side. And all of our employees, all 450 of our employees, direct labor employees, have read that book and have talked about it for hours in terms of how they relate to each other. So that's two really good examples.
So Ryan Jones, studying marketing and HR. What's the biggest challenge that you've seen as a global company, and how do you overcome that? Whether it's anything in dealing with people or getting products out, just kind of biggest challenge, and how do you overcome it?
I think we probably all have a different perspective on that because we wrestle different global problems or global opportunities. Probably for us is getting the organization to think globally. This will sound so silly, but I used to find myself being so headquarters centric that I actually put a note on my desk that says, you have friends in Canada and the UK and all of our locations. I listed it out because I needed that to be top of mind. How was the experience that we were going to deliver to our home office employees? How are we going to translate that to our field sales offices? And how are we going to translate that to our UK office? And had I asked Canada about their input? And does that even work for their employees? And was I being culturally sensitive? And so it was important for me to just make sure that no matter whatever decision we were making, I wasn't just making it for Salt Lake. And that took some training for me, quite honestly. Coming into our Australian team, which was a fully baked business that we then acquired and folded in, the integrity of that onboarding process for that entire company and every position in that company was extremely important to me. We had promised to make them partners through this whole acquisition process, and they were very sort of skeptical of that, I would say. Yeah, partners. We've been acquired before. We know what it means to be a partner. You're going to tell us what to do. But we meant it. And so there had to be little evidences of partnership, meant asking their opinion. How do you want to handle this? I noticed there were a lot of very tactical questions coming my way from the HR lead in this space. And I said, well, how have you done it before? What was the best solution? What do your people need? What do you, and that exchange was really important. So if you want true global partners, I think it's less about dictating policy globally rather than collaborating on what's the best thing to do for each market.
I think it's easy, headquarters Salt Lake City, to think, oh, our processes here are the right ones. We have to export processes to the rest of the world, and that's just not true. The reality is that every one of our different businesses does something awesome. They do something better than the way we do it. And every different operation is running different experiments every day, learning in a different way. So it's very key to make sure that all of our people are tuned in to what else can we learn from each other.
And I would add, just from my perspective, our competitors, they drive us crazy. I mean, they make us better, but they are just nipping at our heels, and it's always a dance just to stay, ahead of them. And sometimes they do, unfortunately, trump us on something, and it hurts. And so we hate ever feeling like we're playing catch up. We want to, being the market leader, always stay in that position. And so something that will never go away, but that you can never take your eye off, is those stupid competitors. Yeah.
I think as well, you raise a good point, and it's something we see with a lot of our clients, where they want to have one organization and one culture worldwide, like one big enterprise, but still offer enough flexibility and respect for each of the sites around the world. And I think that's a real balancing act. And we obviously work with so many huge corporations that are trying to deal with that. Some are very decentralized, and so they are really more like a holding company of companies around the world. There they don't seem to have as many issues around trying to bring a sense of oneness, a sense of unity to it. the approach we take is, no, we want the people in Australia to very much feel part of the OC Tanner culture. And yeah, there are going to be nuances and differences for them in that market. Same thing for our 2 different sites in India. But we want them to feel part of a bigger whole. And that seems to be the trend that most large organizations are looking for. And that's always a balancing act. How do you help get the right processes in the right places, but honor and respect the unique things that people bring from each of those markets?
And to be part of a bigger whole, you got to be talking all the time. And so, for example, we have daily conversations in IT in India. We have weekly conversations all across supply chain and logistics globally, because if you're not talking all the time, things tend to deteriorate. That's the natural order of things, and it takes energy to keep things at a high standard.
I'll just give you one example. We recently made an improvement to our parental leave benefit for the birth of a child, and that happened on the street in Melbourne after leaving a day at our new Accumulate office, this company that we had acquired. And I'm walking down the street with our CEO, and we're talking about differences in benefits between the 2 programs and what we need to align, and between the 2 companies and what we need to align. And I said, it's mandatory that we provide a 2-year leave of absence in Australia. 2 years. And so he says, well, that's interesting. What's our policy? And I'm like, I've talked to you about it like 15 times. But he was listening. He was listening because we were having this global conversation. And I said, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you what it is, but can I tell you what I think it should be? I said, we need to be doing 6 weeks of paid leave for our women and 2 weeks for our dads. And he said, well, that sounds reasonable in light of 2 years in Australia. And so yes. And so we did that. We did that right on the street, walking back to the hotel. And it was because we had the perspective of this global benefit and the way that they were taking care of people as policy within a country. And we could make a company decision for how we were going to take care of employees in the U.S. So that's just a real quick example of how that happened, and being ready for that conversation.
All right, I'm sure we could probably ask questions here all day. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for it. So if we could join me in thanking our guests here with a round of applause.